Hey, Kwasi, how are you, man?
I'm doing good today, Paul. How are you doing? Well, how do you prefer to be addressed before we
No, no,
begin?
no. This that's it's come on. We're having a morning coffee or tea. It's informal. Let's not make it formal or say Coach P or Doc P. No, no, we don't need any of that. Just Paul's good.
Oh, like all the years of like hooping, it just whenever I talk to a coach, it's like an instinct. I don't even know, but I hear you. We're chill now. We're chill.
Great. Before we get started, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Fireside Chats, episode 3. We have the wonderful distinction of this fine gentleman on the screen here, Kwasi Adu-Poku, my African brother. Kwasi, thank you for being part of this. For those that don't know what Fireside Chats is just an informal conversation amongst friends, just chatting about life, talking about our journeys through basketball, our journeys through academics, and just our journeys overall. For those of you that are watching, whether you're a young boy, young girl, youth, young adults, really take heed of what Kwasi is saying. Uh, I don't want to give it away because I know some of the things he's going to touch on. I just will say this before we start that I've had the pleasure of coaching against Kwasi when he was at McMaster, and hell of a ball player, hell of a ball player. And although we beat them, I have to say that we beat you guys that particular fateful Wednesday evening at your house.
I know what you're talking about. I remember that.
Yeah, is it too soon? Too soon. I think also you guys were 5 in the country at the time,
Yeah,
and
remember. Yeah, we got a locker room talk after that. I won't lie to you.
we had a great locker room talk too. When I hit the road, we're so
Oh,
happy.
man. Yeah.
But Kwasi, thank you for being part of this. Without any further ado, welcome to the show. Welcome to Fireside Chats. Let's start off with just telling us about what you're doing these days, and then we'll walk it back to where you're from, and taking it back to the streets. But what are you doing to yourself these days since graduating?
These days, I guess since graduating McMaster, I was lucky enough to get into grad school at, it's currently called Ryerson, but as we know in the renaming process, we go by the X University. But
Right.
I'm there studying public policy and administration on full scholarship. I'm also working as a part-time research assistant. I'm part of a couple of committees. I work with the TDSB Black Student Success Advisory Committee. I'm working with a group called the MENA Project to help mentor youth across Toronto. I am also still, doing my thing with the Reach series, hosting events where I can. I'm, doing that blog thing I told you about. I'm also, making some business pitches to try and grow the Reach series into different kind of spaces, but that's another topic. But end of the day, I'm still just, doing personal development, trying to grow myself and just make the most of my time now because as you know, time just keeps on flying and I'm just trying to make the most of it.
No, absolutely. And there's so much to unpack from that. This episode it's entitled Doing Whatever It Takes, a story of perseverance of yourself. And, you mentioned about, in Toronto, you mentioned about the different committees you are, but maybe before we even touch on those, let's walk it back and tell us about yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you played growing up. I mean, obviously we know you played at McMaster, but, you know, tell us who Kwasi Adu-Poku is.
Well, to be honest, I'll give you the Spark Note summary, and then I know we're definitely going to get into it. But for me, I was born in Rexdale in Toronto. For those of you who know where that is, but when I was 4, we moved to Jane and Finch, and that's where I've been since. I'm someone who I'm not sure if people because I'm not sure where are you in Canada right now. I'm just trying
Well,
to
right now I'm in Windsor, but our audience is out of British Columbia. Our audience
British
is
Columbia.
is Manitoba. It's Canadian. We're reaching across everyone across the board. But form is based in Vancouver. But as people know, that Coach P, he chills out throughout the school year in Ontario and then heads back in the spring and summer. So you're speaking to youth across the country.
That's amazing. Hope y'all are doing good. Hope y'all are drinking that milk. But I don't know why I said that. But wait, could you? Oh yeah, you were just asking me about my journey. So I've been in Jane and Finch since. A big part of my life changed in grade 4 when I was classified as a gifted student. That's why I just asked you about the jurisdiction and the target audience, because I wasn't sure who would know that is. But I was a troublemaker as a kid, but I was the one who would basically get my work done in 10 minutes and distract everyone. So like, I was bad. Did a test, and that's basically what took me out of my area to go to different schools to get my education. And I originally did soccer and track as a kid. I was pretty good. Like I remember getting to the city finals for the hurdles in grade 6. It was intense. But in grade 7, at my first track practice, I had like a really traumatic knee injury. Like if you know about the reach series, I talk about it a lot. I was this close to not even being able to walk properly. That's when my surgeon told me if I got the surgery a day later. And ultimately, I had given up on playing sports. Like I was just like, this is too much. I don't know if I'll be the same. But my 2 older brothers, one of them played at York University, but got me into playing basketball, and I wasn't all that good. If I could be honest, I wouldn't say that to you then, but now I could admit it. But I really had to work my way up and do a lot of research and things to even get to McMaster, and ended up getting an offer by my 5th year in high school. And it was a really last minute thing, which we'll get into. And I found that my love and desire to prove myself through basketball. And I had this also desire, I guess it was to just show that even though I had this knee injury, with hard work and dedication, anything's possible, which, we'll touch into. But that's kind of what guided me to get to Mac. And that's what I really tried to take with me throughout my university experiences. And it's in a way what formed the Reach series and what continues to guide me today. Just that idea of taking your adversity and using it to inspire others, using it to show people what can be possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the title of this is aptly named as we talk about perseverance, because as you of all people know, persevere through injury, and obviously being a varsity athlete or a former varsity athlete going through university, you face a lot of adversity, you face a lot of challenges, you have the good days, the bad days, and you simply have to persevere. And you have a goal in mind and you want to reach it. You mentioned about, before we continue on, you mentioned about the Reach series. For those in our audience who don't know what that is, what is the Reach series?
Well, I'll honestly say in one line, and then I'll elaborate and I'll break it down. But the Reach series is ultimately a program, or it's ultimately a place for personal development. I've kind of made it a platform that has a lot of different areas. In the past, as you may have seen, I've hosted events, especially around just finding purpose and finding direction. And, I was able to get coaches across Canada. I was able to get the head coach of Canada's women's national team, which was amazing, Lisa Tomaitis at the time, which was amazing. I've been able to host workshops, or I've been able to speak to people about just defining themselves outside of sport, because we'll really get into it. But I've been an athlete who struggled with confidence for so long. I even tell people the story in grade 10 of when I finally got to start a game, and I was so nervous that I literally froze on the court. Like it was straight out of a TV show. Like it was tougher times, and I really just speak to that. I've also been one to do public speaking engagements where I've been able to go to communities. I've been able to talk to even high schools in Calgary and places across Canada just about finding this worth, which has been something that's been very fulfilling and fruitful for me. But at the end of the day, it's just a place to remind people that they're not alone in their struggles. And it's something that I'll continue to usher and spread that message to people, because I just think it's important to know you're not alone, because a lot of times life will make you feel that way, but at the end of the day, you're really not as much alone as you think.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially in a time and day and age now with the pandemic still going on, and we're in these different restrictions or lockdowns or circuit breaker, whatever the term they want to use, and people are spending more and more time alone. It's having something like the Reach series where they can view it online, or go to an event when we get back to things not being locked down. I think it's important. And I commend you for bringing something like that to our communities. You mentioned about playing basketball and the adversity and challenge you had, but what was it like playing basketball as a local Toronto kid? What was it like playing locally, and what was it like playing in Ontario for you?
Ontario? Well, for me, I guess it have to boil back to high school, a bit of middle school. I'll be honest with you, I never made the team in middle school. Every year I tried out, I'd always get cut. It's tragic. By the time high school came around, I had joined a couple community organization. So there was a group called Recognize the Real. I also, yeah, it was really cool. I was basically just playing with a lot of kids in the Jaden and Finch community who were really good. And I wasn't the best, so it helped me get better, but I still realized how long of a way I had to go. By the time I got to grade 9, I always felt like I was on the outside of the basketball sphere, because I know a lot of people, play in Ontario, at least, have, your rep leagues, your OBA kind of thing. And I'll be honest, I played AAU towards the end of high school and everything, but I never made an OBA team. Like every time I tried out, and I'd always just feel like such an outsider. I guess it gave me a bit of a chip on my shoulder to work a bit harder, but high school was, I guess it was like a gradual increase in terms of how things were for me, because as I told you, grade 10 literally froze up on the court when I finally, got a chance to start and everything. But I was someone that I would say really worked hard. Like I literally spent summers sometimes getting that. I'm not sure what it is in BC, but there's Good Life, how you can get a free summer membership.
Yeah.
Just get that. I live really close to York, so I'd bike to York every summer, pretty much almost every day. And I just try and train, get better. I also joined a team called Hoops Canada. At the time, you might have seen them. Like, shout out Coach J, a really solid guy. And he also gave me the space to get better throughout my high school journey. I also went to Canadian Basketball Academy for a bit.
Okay.
It was run by a guy named Stephen Ambrose. Fun fact, it's super random, but Delano, like on Toronto Raptors, like was also on CBA.
Delano Banton?
Yeah, this is super random, but super lit.
Yes,
yeah.
Rex, he's a Rexdale man.
Yeah, what he does is amazing. He's literally a symbol of his inspiration for he's a solid person for real. Yes. But I guess as far as my journey goes, it was really just feeling like I was on the outside of things. But by the time I got to, my grade 12 in my 5th year, things just really started coming together, because a lot of that work I did that almost felt like it was for nothing in a lot of situations kind of just gradually started coming together. And finally being able to score more consistently, finally realizing that, I could grab rebounds and everything. And it ended up in me getting offers and getting looked at literally my 5th year of high school. Like in grade 12, I had nothing. Grade 11, I had nothing. I even contemplated quitting in grade 11. Like I still remember a day where it was an AAU tournament, and I was just really realizing like, wow, like these coaches come and they're not looking at me. There's no eyes on me. And I just remember even walking home from the tournament after, just like, I feel like every kid has had this moment where you're just like teary-eyed, like, damn, like when is this going to pay off? And I remember kind of fighting that. And I feel like that's what our ball journeys are a lot about, just continually fighting, every reason telling us to stop. But by the time my 5th year came, I ended up having a really great game and got recruited to go to McMaster. And from there, it was almost like working your way up to get to a mountain, just to realize there's a whole nother mountain.
A whole nother one too. It's like you thought this one was big, there's a bigger one there, right?
Yeah, it felt like a season finale, and you realize like we're just getting started. But that's what brought me outside of my city in Toronto, and what made me realize just how big the basketball world is, and the OUA, USports, and just everything. But yeah, that was my journey.
It's the you get the offer from McMaster. Shout out to Coach PT, head coach at the men's program at MAC. For those, again, our audience is youth, our audience is young adults, but especially the youth who are navigating through high school now, and they're navigating through a pandemic. But just that part of trying to get recruited. If you just real quick, just talk about that experience. Talk about how you even got PT to come holler at you and say, "Hey, Kwasi, man, we want you to hail up down in Hamilton." Well, what was that like?
Well, I'll definitely break down the story for you, because it starts in grade 12. Okay. Like I said, in grade 12, I had 0 offers. Like I had nothing, but a part of me, it was funny because even though my grades were okay and I could get into not like okay, but I had, for my parents' standards, I had okay marks, but they were still pretty high. I realized that I wanted to take a 5th year. I just really wanted to play basketball at the next level. So I took that chance, kind of had a bit of back and forth. By the time December came, and I don't really remember, it feels so like 5 years ago, but I know in high school you had to choose where you're going in December or something, or January.
Yeah, you got to do your
for those deadlines.
Applications. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was playing really well, and I remember, to my knowledge, U of T, from what I remember, Algoma, and PT was at Ryerson. Well, that's what it was named before at the time.
Yeah.
And one of his assistant coaches was interested in me, and I actually went to Ryerson to work out while I was on my recruiting circuit and everything. But it's funny, PT wasn't coaching McMaster in the first year. It was Coach Amos Connolly. But a guy named Jim Thomas, you know, rest his soul and everything, he happened to see me playing at one tournament. It was I think it was a Central Tech tournament, like a tournament in Toronto. And I was so lucky he happened to catch that game, because I remember that I just felt like locked in right off rip. I think we were playing Lee side, and I had like 20 points in the first half. Like every time I got the ball, I just shot it, and it was a good half. I didn't play the rest of the second half because we were beating them by a lot. We were ranked really high at the time, but luckily he was there. Luckily he saw the Hooptown GTA thing that shows like 20-point games and stuff. And I feel embarrassed when I say it, but he told me about McMaster, and I didn't really look into universities, and I thought it was like a hamburger or something, like, you know, like McDouble. And I was a goof, you know, you just don't realize, you know, I needed to fix up. That was a wake up call. But started looking into Mac, really got into their kin program, because as I told you, I had the knee injury, and it was kind of history from there. But it was a bit of drama for sure, because, you know, I was going to be the first in my family to go away for school. And my parents were just really thinking, why don't you stay here? Why don't you get your education? There's so many risks. But I just remember feeling, especially after speaking to my guidance counselor, I felt like I had to go, and I didn't want to get older and regret a decision I didn't make, because I feel like that's one thing to avoid. I'm someone that likes to just know I tried and everything. So I took the chance to go to Mac. I literally confirmed at like 11:58 p.m. right before the deadline. It was bad because
very last minute.
Parents, my mom did not want me to go. She's so happy now. By the time, and then I literally had to scramble the next day, because you had to send a deposit for residence by 3 p.m. the next day. So I didn't have a credit card or nothing, and I was literally running across my school calling everyone. And I remember my English teacher was just laughing the whole time, and I'm like, "Why are you laughing?" And he's like, "Because everything's gonna work out, you know." Now that looking back, I wish I was laughing with him, but I definitely wasn't then. But.
Well, it's tough. It's tough when you're in the moment. You're the one having to scramble, whatever it is, and you know, what you said is very true. Everything always works out when it's supposed to work out, right? It might be in the midnight hour. It might be in the first thing in the morning, but you know, everything always works out. And you know, like we talked before. My dad is Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria. We are African brothers. You know, African parents always have that saying. It's like, to be good, it will come when it will come. And you're sitting here like, what? No, I want it to happen now, right? But it'll always happen, you know. Or they always say, I know my dad always says, God's timing is always the best. You know, the parents always say that. That's that journey, that story is amazing. What was your high school that you went to, for those that don't know?
Oh, I went to William Lyon Mackenzie Collegiate. For those of you who don't know, it wasn't really known as a basketball school, but by the time I got to my grade 12 and 5th year, we were really known. We had some good players, and we had a guy who plays in the Philippines now, James Canas. I know he was like ranked really high and all that stuff at the time in high school, but that was our team. We had some solid players for real.
Yeah, and for those that are in our audience that don't know, Toronto high school ball is next level. It's serious. You know, it's the gyms are packed, and it's a war. I remember when I lived in Toronto coaching Toronto program and going to some of these games, and it's insane. I've been in gyms as a coach to recruit, and it's wild. It is absolutely wild, but I love it, you know. And everyone has a cheer. Like, what is going on with that? Like, every school has a cheer, and everybody knows the words. They're going back and forth, and it's if you've never experienced it, for those in our audience, when we get out of this whole COVID nonsense, make it a point to go to a Toronto high school game, or an OBA game in Toronto, or an AU game in Toronto. Anything basketball-wise that's serious, you are going to have the experience of your lifetime.
Yo, just quick interjection there. Like the vibe is definitely different. It's a spectrum. I'll never forget. I don't know if you know. You probably know Ahmed Ali. Like, you know, broke the high school scoring record and everything. my team was ranked, and we went to his school to play them right after he had that game, and that was the most packed, people on every side of the gym. If you try to dive for a ball going out of bounds, you're probably gonna like hit someone because it was packed.
Yeah,
I get what you mean about the energy. It's different, but it's something you remember for a while.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So obviously going to Mac, what for you? And I use the word prestigious because Mac is known for a lot of their different programs and as a academic school in general. What does it mean to you to be a McMaster grad?
Honestly, like I literally have my degree right across from me. I have my jersey that I don't have space for. Well, I'll find a place for it, but it honestly means the world to me because when I look at the degree, I feel all kinds of emotions. I see the student in me who found ways to, make honor roll as I had to practice at the same time. I'd literally be running back and forth between practice and class in my jersey. Just shout out Old Spice. They really helped me. I think about my journey I told you in high school where everything came together at the last minute and I just really took a chance in going. I think about the many experiences I had at Mac though, which is another story, but the way I had to work my way up from basically a walk-on to, being like a top 8 rebounder of all time and all that stuff. Like I just think of that journey. I think about every time I thought about quitting. I think about every time I thought about just looking at my roof when I wake up and just feeling like I can't get up because I'm just so down in the dumps. And I think about how I got past those moments, how I willed myself past them, how I had a good support system. And I just see someone who found a way and someone who will continue to find a way. That's just what I feel every time I look at that degree. And it's what I hope I can, instill in other people when they think about, whether it's them pursuing a degree, whether it's them pursuing a career or them in their ball journey, because I just know how much you can take from life when you look at the basketball side of things or your academic journey. But to me, when I see that degree, I just see hope. I don't know. That's just kind of what I take from it.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing is when you've accomplished something and gone through, again, you've persevered and gone through the challenges and the adversity, it's such a joy that every time you look back on it, or every time you think of stories or think of situations, your adventures, you bring a smile to your face. Sometimes you're like, oh, damn it, like that shit was crazy, but it really builds you up, and it really gives you that sense of purpose. And hopefully that people that are watching this or people who are going through their own journey, they take stock of what you've said, and they truly buy into what they're trying to do, and that gives them hope. We have to ask, obviously, playing in the OUA is tough. It's a grind. It's traveling. Like, what is, for those who don't know, who want to get to where Kwasi was, what is it like playing in the OUA, traveling, the grind? Like, what is that like?
Before I even get to the traveling grind, I got to get to even just the grind on the team, because like I told you, in my first year, I was a walk-on. So I didn't realize it, but when I got to Mac, I know in the preseason, anyone, like more people who are on the team can dress, get a chance to play. I didn't even play in the preseason game, so I should have seen it coming, but only 12 people can dress, and I believe 13 people can travel. So even in my first year, I just remember it was a grind to even work for that 12th or 13th spot. Well, at least in my case, I know it may be different for others, but there are so many battles to be fought just to understand the plays, to get the extra work in, to make a case for why your role should expand. Because one thing that I guess may be different when you get to the OUA, I know it's largely the coaches, having a vision for how they want their team to be. So they might have a certain role for you. So certain skills you may think you have, you might not have to lean on them as heavily, because the coaches have, like for me, for example, I was someone who could, do a bit of everything. And like my coach would recognize that with me and talk to me about it. But when I was on the court, he just wanted me crashing the glass and crashing the offensive glass, for example. And I had to really realize that that's a hard thing for some people to process, I find, especially in the OUA. But yeah, just learning to see how you fit in the system while still working on your overall game is one of the biggest challenges. But I definitely say once second year came, once PT came in and I was able to get more minutes, it's a whole nother grind. Like I told you, I had class when I had practice at the same time in my second year. So it was literally a matter of me doing extra conditioning before practice. We had morning practice, so I'd be getting in the gym at like 8 or 8:30 just to do extra sprints and everything, because I knew I was going to miss practice for class and everything. Then sprinting to class in my practice gear, then leaving class right away to catch the second half of practice, having to warm up again. So things like that are a norm for a lot of athletes. And then still being expected to do well in school, still being expected to know what's going on in the team. Yeah, I'm really rambling, but
it's good.
yeah, I just think there's so much that goes into it. And a lot of people often see you and think, oh, you think you're so cool because you have the bag and the jacket. But I just think there's so much more that goes into it at times. Mm-hmm. And especially as you get into your upper years, if you get to play more, regardless, you're just working so hard to be part of a team. It becomes such a regular part of your life, whether it's the airplane rides. And like, that was one of my first times riding a plane when we went to play Lakehead in my second year. I almost passed out. Didn't tell no one that. Didn't let them know. But there's just so many new experiences while finding ways to maintain balance academically, trying to keep track of your mental health, still trying to have a social life. There's just a lot of realms that people don't necessarily see. But at the end of the day, I feel like if the cards play out right, like you'll find family in your team. You might even find a 1-2 player, even a couple players in your team who you just really resonate with, because you'll find that you play with or against people from all over the world, and you never know who you'll meet. But at the end of the day, we all had that same journey and drive that brought us to the OUA, and there's room to connect in that. But I definitely say it's a grind that a lot of people don't realize. People always think, oh, if I'm not in D1, like, what am I doing and stuff. Like, I know that's like the high school mentality a lot, but Canada basketball is growing. I really want you to go to an OUA team summer run. You'll realize quick that people are elite, and I'm sure it's the same thing all across the country. But it's a grind for sure, but one that if you stick with it, there's definitely payoff in it for sure. And the life lessons you learn, the conditioning, just I could tell you stories about summer camp and stuff, but it's a grind, but one that I wouldn't trade for anything.
Yeah, and I think that it's good that you touched on that, because oftentimes, with form, with the academy, we'll get kids into our program and they all want to go play next level. And I always ask them one simple question: how many hours a week do you dedicate to basketball? And then you get like, oh, well, coach, I got to go do this and I got to go do that. And I sit there and I watch paint dry sometimes when I play video games and so on and so forth. And I say to them, I said, well, when that number reaches double digits, come talk to me, right? Because like you talked about, it's a grind. You have to, you're a student first, you're an athlete second. And I think a lot of young people have to really take stock of that, understand what that really means. So, thank you for touching on that. Kwasi, you are a former player, you are a mentor, you're an entrepreneur. Like, briefly, I know you talked about the Read series, but briefly talk to us what that is like for you. Why the mentorships, why being part of these committees, why being, why is it your thing? Why is it important to you that you are, being involved in the community and try to make a difference?
I think for me, and that's a great question, it honestly boils down to two things. The first one is just realizing how many mentors and great people I've had around me that, whether they realize it or not, have had a strong impact on my life. Even that one coach you might have for a month who just tells you the world's your oyster. Like, those kind of comments, like, it's even on my LinkedIn. I'll never forget that conversation with my coach from CBA. But those mentors who have had that impact on my life, I've seen and felt its importance, especially as someone who's suffered with low confidence for a while, who's continuing to overcome that. I see that, and I want people to feel uplifted, because I know how important it is for just overcoming the natural adversity we face in life, But the second reason is, when I told you about the injury I had in grade 7 as a kid, I realized even though I was a kid, it still had a profound impact on my life. But I just remember making a promise to myself that with everything I got through and with everything I overcame, I wanted to find some way to share that, so anyone who may be having that silent battle wouldn't feel alone. And with everything I did in high school, with everything I did in university, I just remember that especially in university, I remember by the third year, it got to a really bad point where, like I told you before, I connected my mental health to my self-worth to my performance so much that it had a really bad impact on my mental health when my playtime dropped a bit. And I remember it got to a point where I had to start going to therapy because I couldn't separate the two, and I was just in a really bad state. Like, it was literally like just lying on my bed and I just couldn't get up. Like, I'd always hear about those things, but to experience them was another thing. But once I overcame that, once I was able to separate the two and really start to thrive outside of sport, really start to, be a bit more consistent on the court, as you saw and everything. I remember I had my best season in my fourth year after therapy. I just, going into my fifth year, especially with the pandemic, I thought, why not create this platform, especially with mentors who pushed me, but why not create this platform to just help people find that same empowerment? Because I know in grade 7, I would speak to this message, but I thought there was so much more I had to do before I could really broadcast that message. But when I reflected on the work I did in high school and the work I did in uni to get to that point, I was like, you know what, even if people don't want to listen, I just still want to share this with whoever wants to hear it. And that's what the Reach series is. That's what it's going to continue to be as I get older. But at the root of it, it's just helping people in ways that I wish I was helped before at the root of it. But yeah.
No, that is amazing. And, you're very well spoken. You have a good vision for yourself and realizing where you've come from and obviously figuring out where you're going, which is amazing. Let's briefly pivot for a second and talk about transitions, because I don't think a lot of people understand the different types of transitions that one goes through. So, what was the transition like for you from high school to university, and then now from university to a grown man who is in grad school, but it's still a transition as well too. What are those like?
I think that transition point's a very big thing to think about, because though some things can stay the same, there's always going to be change you're going to have to adapt to. And I remember going from high school to uni, I'd say I was lucky that I had 2 older brothers who often played men's leagues, but they, had me in the men's league. I was getting bodied by 25 and 30-year-olds, some former pros and stuff like that. Yeah. But it really humbled me in understanding that there's people who've played ball longer than me. There's people who, might be at a higher level, but what can I learn and take from them? And it naturally helped me adjust to the OUA a bit more, because just seeing that in, these older men when I played against them, and then realizing now being in the OUA, wow, I thought I had this, wild story, this wild underdog story, but now you're playing against teams where pretty much everyone has that story, because I know you might know Kadre at Laurentian, but he was also from Toronto. And even when everyone knows it, everyone knows it, but he doesn't remember it, but in grade 9, I remember I played him, he slapped my team. In grade 12 in my 5th year, when my team was having that come up, every time we got deep enough into the cities, I'd run into his team and things didn't really work out. His team did his thing, And it's just funny when you think about people like him who have had amazing careers and have just done so much. There's people all across the country in the USports and the OUA who have their own amazing stories. And I really got that perspective, which humbled me to just focus on being the best player I could be. And that's what I did. While I had my time and privilege, I just realized how humble I had to be and how open I had to be to criticism, because like I said, everyone had their story. And every year I got older, I honored it. And I found the more I did, it seemed like it wouldn't help, but it really helped me be a lot more consistent and a lot more level-headed of a player. But I find sometimes when you get that ego, it can kind of make your performance fluctuate, but it definitely helped. But I guess now transitioning to life after the OUA, I think my experience separating who you are as a player from who you are as a person and creating the Reach series, it really helped in that transition, because there's one thing I realized is just going to campus now, downtown Toronto where I'm at school, it was definitely different. Like, not having all the varsity gear, not going to practice, just, being another person going to class. And it kind of felt nice, but it was also still just, realizing that I'm more than an athlete and everything. But it was also very humbling, but it was something I was prepared for. But it definitely also helped me realize how all the things I took during my athlete experiences, whether it was high school, whether it was university, kind of translated to this post undergrad life, because the things you learn as an athlete that it's hard to learn in other environments. And I'm seeing now how it continues to help me thrive.
Yeah, no doubt. It's I think maybe the word that we'll use there is it's surreal, to now be like, oh, my playing career is done. Crap. What do I do? I don't have to go to practice. I don't have to wake up. I don't have to do these things. So, and you had a great career at Mac. So I can see how now it's kind of the now what, but you're figuring out the now what, and you're in grad school, and that is amazing. Kwasi, as as a Black man who grew up in Toronto, who is obviously seeing the events that have happened over the last few years in relation to the racial events, especially down in the US, kind of like walk us through a little bit how you view that. How does that affect you? How do you how do you view it? How do you say to yourself, how can I make a difference? Or, what the hell is going on in our world? Like, what does that do to you when you see these racial events happening?
Well, the first thing I will say is, although, I come from, Jane and Finch, and I've seen a lot of things, I will preface it by saying I'm aware of many of the struggles that people have went through that I, at the same time, still don't fully relate to and connect. So I won't try to, speak for everyone. I'll just try to speak from
for yourself,
the people I speak into my experiences. I just always want to respect that. But when I think about it, I'd honestly say the recognition now almost feels surreal, because it's surreal, but it's amazing, but it's also overwhelming at times, I'd say, because even when you think about, microaggressions, like the subtle comments people make, like, oh, you're so well spoken, you almost speak like a white person, like growing up and hearing those things, and people think it's like a compliment, and a part of you would feel like, this isn't right. And when I think about the murder of George Floyd and a lot of these things, in a lot of senses, I realize that a lot of these subtle ways, a lot of these systemic ways in which we've been oppressed have all just collectively been recognized now, and they're continuing to be recognized. And I think it's an amazing thing to see, because now we're going to have future generations who may not have to deal with the same things we have. They'll definitely have their own struggles. But at the same time, it can be overwhelming at times, because now we're seeing more instances in the news, and now we're just constantly exposed to these things. And although it's great that it's being acknowledged, I think at the same time, we still have to, give ourselves that room to process the grief and, the pain that often comes with these things being recognized. So I say that though the progress is great, it's very important for us to give us that space to just recognize and unpack what we're seeing in terms of how the world's progressing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in keeping with that answer, and the answer is, how important is it for you as a mentor, as a person in the community, to make a difference with our youth, especially the young black boys and girls in Toronto, and the GTA, and Hamilton? How important is it that, what does that mean to you with using your platform?
Mm-hmm. For me, I think it means using my platform, like I said before, to just give back in ways in which I wish I had when I was younger. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm also realizing, and it's something that my mentors constantly not warned me about, but cautioned me around. But they say that, as much as I want to spread to the community and share my messages, I still have to find that balance between, building my career, building myself up so that I could get higher, so I can help them even more. Yes. So I definitely say finding that balance can sometimes make me feel guilty, because oftentimes I'll think there's so much more I want to do. But at the end of the day, I still find myself, getting involved and helping around. But I honestly say it's important to me. And I just know that even in times where I'm focusing more on my career and my business and things of that nature, I just know at the end of the day, I'm going to be building myself up so I could spread my reach and impact even more. But I'm going to still help people along the way. That's just how I try. But also being, aware of my mental health and how wide I spread myself. But I'm going to do what I can when I can, as much as I can. But
yeah, no, that is a great answer. And just again, the work that you are doing with the Reach series, and being in grad school and being part of your program and wanting to better yourself it speaks testament to your hard work. It speaks testament to how you're raised. Fireside Chats, as we touched on at the beginning, folks, is just about, friends coming together and just chit chatting and, shooting the shit, and it's an informal way of us to, whether we have a virtual coffee, virtual beer, whatever it is, glass of wine, and just talk about life because, as we've seen it over the last couple of years, life changed and is changing and it's forever evolving. For yourself, Kwasi, again, we're kind of directing our messaging towards the youth, the young people. If we were in a room right now, let's say we're in a lecture hall of 500 kids and 500 people, and you were delivering a message to them, what would your advice to the young people be on chasing their dreams and achieving their goals and empowering themselves?
Well, at the root of it, it might sound contradictory, but I tell them to, find great mentors and people to surround yourself with so you could just really, listen and learn from them. But at the same time, just keep listening to your voice, because I feel that we all have a voice inside of ourselves that knows what we want in life, that knows what we want to work for. And I think the more we sit with that voice, the more we could kind of build the habits that'll, push us to go in the direction of, really realizing our inner ambitions. And I think that's the most important thing for achieving your dreams, because like I said, there are mentors who can, show you the way, inspire you and everything. But at the end of the day, it comes down to listening to that voice and how accountable you'll be to that voice, because I think there's so much power within all of us. And I think that taking the time to really just sit with what motivates us and inspires us, it'll help us do what we need to do, because when I think about me and that voice, for example, I know that in high school, I'd be sad about, how much better I have to get. But when I did really sit with myself, I think, how much more work could I do? And it gets to points where I'm literally working out, 4 times a day, like going before school starts, going at lunchtime to the weight room, asking my coach again to go after school, then like AAU practice in the nighttime, and I realized that over time, listening to my voice helped me build habits that helped me naturally get where I was meant to be, because whether I get there or not, and not even just basketball, but in all cases of life, I think it's the habits you build that just, really set the foundation for where you want to go. And of course, there's, motivation and getting amped and all that stuff, we need that. But I really think the habits you set are like a very crucial thing. And rest too, like making time for the games accordingly when you can. Super Smash Bros. I'm getting back into it. My NES is getting there, but like I said, just making time for those habits that'll help you really foster that inner voice. I think it's key to becoming the person you're meant to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's so true. It's so key. I know you're graduating now, but it hurts my heart for my athletes at the university level because they're not able to really go through their own regular routines as you would during a normal season, right? And those habits you built throughout grade school, high school are on pause now because virtual learning is the name of the game, and you're not able to be on campus through these lockdowns. So as much as you can, still try to have those habits. So whether, gyms are closed, but if you can work out at home at the same time that you used to do, and those sort of things, it's truly important. For those that want to follow your journey, where's the best place for them to reach you at on the gram?
Well, I'll say 2 things. I'll drop the contact info, and then if it's okay, I want to share something that Lisa Tomaitis, said to me around recruiting, especially in the pandemic scene. Just in case, like you said, if there's one person who could benefit from this, I want to share it. But yeah, if you could to reach me, I'd say follow at the Reach Series on Instagram. I also have a link on my Instagram that has, access to my website, access to a blog I created, just speaking to my experiences, and it even has footage of some events I've run in the past. I'm also growing in more of the public speaking space. So if you want to, book me to kind of come speak to people that you think would benefit from, definitely reach me there or on my LinkedIn. It's just my name, Kwasi Adu-Poku. And then you'll also be able to see some of the stuff I do outside of the Reach Series. Like I've gotten more than $70,000 in scholarships, and I know a lot about that. I've won more than 20 awards, whether they're academic or, like some community engagement stuff, but I could definitely talk to all kinds of experiences, and I'm happy to share them. But that second point, which I think is very important,
Let's hear it.
Lisa Tomias, I remember I just asked her, and it's, even if you scroll down far enough on my Instagram, you'll see the minute clip from her, because one thing I did before was I picked the brains of whether it was professional athletes, whether it was these coaches at the highest levels who coached in the G League, coached all across USports. I got a minute of them just speaking life facts, and I kind of made edited videos on my Instagram if you ever want to check them out. But Lisa Tomias in particular just talked about how in the pandemic, it's really hard even for coaches to find talent. So it's definitely a bonus if you're actually, trying to find ways to email coaches, you're trying to find ways to contact them. Because I know there's always the fear of them not responding and everything, but I think, the worst thing that could happen is they don't respond. The best thing that happens is they do, and with that, at least putting yourself out there, it gives you a good chance to, have that chance in this weird time we're in. And it also shows the coach that you're someone who takes initiative, someone who does what needs to be done to really, have a chance and everything. And those things, Paul, as you know, transferred to the basketball court. But I definitely say shoot your shot in that sense. Michael Jordan says it, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But this is the kind of shot that even if it doesn't pay off with one coach, it's, like I said, the habits of just putting yourself out there that over time will get you where you need to go. But
and it's very interesting you said that, because the last two guests that we've had in episode 1 and episode 2, Denny Langford from the Golden State Warriors and Brandon Brock from the University of Alberta, they speak on that, is, putting yourself out there, building a network, and like you said, shooting your shot. And the worst answer you're going to get is no, right? And the best answer you're going to get is, well, whatever they're going to provide you, whether it's a yes or, let's touch base in a few months, or, whatever that might be. But you're definitely going to have a no if you don't reach out. And it's great, folks. Like whenever we talk to our guests and we reach out to our guests, we don't preamble anything. We give a few topics, but we want them to speak from the heart. So this is just unscripted, from Kwasi himself, and it's important that that you, our audience, hear his words. And in the space of now COVID, where everything's virtual and where everything is over email and Zoom and Teams and whatever other platforms that they're using, coaches, even though we want to break from it, we are checking our emails. And whether we get back to it's a different story, because you understand we get like thousands of emails. But it's one of those things where, like he said, shoot your shot. You just never know. And maybe for that specific school, your skill set isn't needed, but coaches talk all the time. So we might say to another coach, hey, you know what? There's a kid here who's a good fit, might be a good fit for you, or, you just never know. You just never know where you can go. And, like you said about the habits, those habits get built and they translate into life, in the workspace, in the family space. Kwasi, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to just sit down and shoot the shit. It was enlightening. It was wonderful. It was truly amazing to hear your journey, hear about your story and how basketball has shaped your life. From all of us here at Forum Basketball Academy, we wish you much success in grad school. Haven't done grad school in the past. I know it's a grind, so make sure you're taking the time to eat, rest, and then play those vids.
Get to it, man. But honestly, thank you for having me. Like, there's one last thing I guess that just really comes to my heart again that I want to share. Yeah. As far as it goes to helping a lot of players at your academy just hopefully get to the next level and just thrive. But your attitude is so important as a player on a team, because like the higher you get in terms of levels of competition, and I've seen this talking to my friends and people I know who have played professionally all across the world, but skill is important. There needs to be a certain level of skill and talent, and as Coach P was saying, fit to get on the team. But I know he could tell you that if you have a bad attitude in a lot of cases, that won't outweigh the skill and the worth that you bring, because a lot of basketball, although it's skill, like who can hit the shots, it really just does come down to who can gel with each other, who's going to listen to what the coach says, who's the guy that, if they have a bad shift when they're coming off, like who's still going to high five their teammates, like who has good body language, who shakes players' hands after the game. I know sometimes you could think skill can kind of make you cut corners in that sense, but one, it's an important life skill, and two, that stuff makes all the difference for team culture, which at the end of the day is what coaches are trying to build. And if you show that you can bring that, it'll give you another advantage in really just trying to cement your spot in the team, because culture wins championships. Like you see what Carlton does, they find players who can fit into their culture, and you see what they do. And a lot of teams are doing that as well. But I just say the attitude as well. We've talked about skill and the grind, but that attitude and positivity, especially when you don't know the battles other people have, it's important to be kind and all those things. But when I tell you the attitude is definitely what helped me along the way, just get the right people who wanted to help me, just seeing my attitude, the coaches who wanted to give me chances, just knowing that I was willing to give them my all, like that side of things makes all the difference as well. And I just hope you take that with you as well, because I want to see you win, even though it's a digital screen. I just think it's one thing that's very important.
And well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you heard it there from the horse's mouth. Attitude. Gino Auriemma talks about it. Says that's one thing he can guarantee. I'm sure you've seen the clip. One thing he can guarantee you. He can't guarantee you minutes. He can't guarantee you any of that. But one thing he can guarantee you is if you have a bad attitude, bad body language, he guarantees you that you will not play. You will not play. And, it's, I thank you for saying that, because that is part of our messaging at the academy as well, too, is, part of our mission statement is that we want to build world-class citizens. And you can only be a world-class citizen if you have a good attitude. If you have a bad attitude, no one really cares about your skill at that point in time, right? You become a cancer to a team, and you cut out the cancer, right? So thank you for your time. Thank you for your messaging. We will definitely preach that, continue to preach that with our kids. And for those who aren't part of our program and who are watching this, here's our guest who played at the highest level in our country, and he's talking about routine and habits, but he's talking about attitude, and that attitude takes you just not on the court, but off the court. Same thing goes for you in the classroom. Kwasi, thank you from all of us here again. We thank you for taking the time. Best of luck in your endeavors and at I guess they call it X University now in grad school, and definitely keep in touch with us. Let us know how your journey is, and we will hope to see you back soon.
It's no problem at all. Like I said, thank you for having me, and I'm just wishing you the best going forward. You're doing amazing things. You're touching the youth. You're, showing the parents just the culture and everything. And I'm wishing you all the best as well. And I hope we can stay in touch.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.